Hey there, it's Marley Major. Before we dig in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell because you definitely don't want to miss another glorious disaster here on Every Day's a Train Wreck. Because missing an episode, now that would be a train wreck. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. I'm your host, Marley Major, and as you can see, I'm doing a side-by-side today because we are on a very fun, very business-oriented cruise with the San Juan Social Club, all about venture capital and funding and finances and very cool projects. And I ran into a very cool guy named Jay Fairbrother, and I'm going to let you listen to Jay's backstory because it's amazing. But he runs mastermind groups and he's going to tell you all about that and like how he got where he is today and basically why I think he's cool enough to be on the show. So Jay, thank you. And thanks for like snuggling in with me as we do this on the ship in the karaoke room. I figured we might as well pick the pink one, for our audience.
Yeah.
So tell everybody, so where are you from and what is it that you do?
Yeah. So I live in Pittsburgh. And so what I do is I help entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, and authors create high ticket mastermind programs as a revenue source and to work with amazing people and change lives and have deep impact with intimate groups.
Okay. So I think of mastermind groups going back to the whole Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich, right? And if you guys haven't listened to or read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, you must. I've read it. It's a tiny book, but super impactful. I mean, it's so simple, but yet it's so powerful and so way, way, way ahead of its time. Because it was written in what, like 90
years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So is that how you came up with the whole, like, let's do masterminds from that? Or were you in a mastermind? Were you in a mastermind that went bad?
It's interesting. So the first mastermind I joined, I actually stayed in for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you the story about the getting into that first one. But yeah, for people listening, the Napoleon Hill concept is very simple. It's you put one person with a brain in a room and you put a second person with a brain in the same room, and it creates this third invisible, intangible force that he labeled the mastermind. And that's where the original concept comes from. So if you imagine in a small, intimate mastermind, putting 8 to 14 brains in the same room, the size of that invisible, intangible force, when you tap into people, the collective experience, collective knowledge, collective wisdom of everybody in the room. So in my world, which is thought leaders, coaches, authors, consultants, the typical, one-to-many model is, you people show up, pray to the altar of the guru, Q&A, they'll throw in a hot seat.
Put your tithes there. Yeah.
And they don't activate that, the value in the room and get that knowledge out of the room, that invisible, intangible force.
So from my world being in event planning with the Party Goddess, right? My first question is, what's the difference of 8 to 14 people in a mastermind group versus a dinner party? So it's that activation component.
Yeah. So where things get to, well, let me share my story.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. So the backstory is, my life first became a train wreck when I was 10 years old and my father died suddenly of a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So like most 10-year-old kids would react, I withdrew, disconnected, kind of angry at the world.
Yeah.
Which totally explains most of my behavior in my teens and 20s.
Yeah.
And, was really kind of that lone wolf. So I started my first company at age 30, quickly grew it to $1 million in revenue and got stuck there. Couldn't figure out how do I get, and hired coaches, consultants, read all the business books, nothing.
Right.
And that's when I joined my very first mastermind. Okay. So that was 25 years ago.
Now, what got you in, like, what was it about that first mastermind? Because I think a lot of us listening who are, whether they're entrepreneurs or whether they are stay-at-home moms or whether we know that kind of plateau, whether it's dieting or something, and then we tend to just put all this energy on, I got to fix it. And then like, why that particular mastermind? Was it just timing? Was it?
Yeah. So it was kind of timing. So I saw an ad in, I think like Inc. magazine or something that said, join a club so exclusive Donald Trump can't get in it.
Wow.
Now, this is 25 years ago.
And
right?
what's significant to me is that you remember the ad.
Yeah.
That's okay. Hello. Yeah. Advertising. Okay.
Yeah. So I joined the Young Entrepreneurs Organization.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I was their education person in LA forever.
Yeah. I ran the Pittsburgh chapter forever.
Yeah. Okay. So now that's why. Okay. So that's why that's our invisible force.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing organization.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I joined my first YEO. Now it's called EO.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped the Young.
Yep. Yeah. Thank God. Yeah.
And so we join, when you join the organization, you get put into a mastermind, right?
Yeah.
And we all join simply to grow our businesses and become better entrepreneurs.
Right.
But what actually happened is, 5 or 6 months in these meetings, I'm starting to watch like grown men break down and cry as they start to open up and talk about their shitty marriages and kid problems and anxiety and depression. That it's like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for. Right?
Exactly. But in some ways it is, right? Because we've all got that. And then that's kind of the premise of this whole podcast, right? Is everything like when you meet those entrepreneurs, and I can like having been in that group and then, traveling nationally or whatever with these organizations, these guys, and because it's more men than women, that's definitely changing. But everything looks perfect on the outside, right? They drive the great car and they've got the hot second wife and da 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 da. And then it's like, okay, wow. And then you get into these things, right? And you're just, but it's all the same. I don't mean all the same in a bad way. I mean all the same in terms of we all have something, right? Absolutely. But it takes a bit to break that down.
Yeah. So that's the key piece to this, is that what distinguishes a mastermind from a networking group or a group coaching program is to develop the container, first of all, to curate who gets into it. So it's not just anyone who can write the check that gets in.
And that's crucial.
It's crucial.
Because just because you have the money to do it doesn't mean, because with a mastermind, you have to give too. I mean, you can't you don't just show up and are like, oh, great, I've got like 7 free board of directors for my company. You have to like weigh in when these guys are crying or.
Yeah. And there has to be commonality, right? You have to, the best masterminds are when everybody in the room feels like, oh my God, all of these people are just like me.
Yeah.
Right. They have the same challenges and fears and frustrations. They have the same aspirations and goals. Right. So when you get somebody who doesn't fit that commonality, it's like,
it's very obvious.
Yeah. And it can be a cancer actually, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to, through the curation and then the way the program is set up, you're creating a container.
Yeah.
And that container is intentionally created to build safety, to build psychological safety. So that people have confidentiality and they start to trust each other and respect each other. And then that allows for that next layer of, okay, here's my train wreck.
So it's the classic know, like, and trust, right? So you've got to get to that trust level. Absolutely. I mean, unless you're nuts, where you're just going to be like crying, you have to be like, I call it here, kitty, kitty, where you're like, okay, you're good. And then the next time, okay, you're good. And then sometimes something gets to the point where you're at that meeting and you've just had a fight with your spouse or whatever. And you're just like,
done.
You just cannot, like, you can't, you're like, I don't even care anymore. I'm just going to let it all go. Yeah. And okay, so keep going.
Yeah. So I joined that first mastermind, but because I had no sort of real human connection and it was disconnected growing up.
Really? Okay.
Like once I realized that's what was happening there, I went all in and I started joining every mastermind I could. At certain times I was in like 4 different masterminds at the time. Okay. And then eventually started running and creating my own. Right. So
because by that, if you're in 4 at a time, you certainly know what works, right? And you know what doesn't work. And then so what were some of the things that worked and didn't work? So if you're in 4 at a time and then you go on to create your own, what were you saying to yourself? Oh my gosh, we're definitely not going to do this. And we're definitely going to do this.
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, I've seen so many sort of different variations of things. I think that the ones that I've been in that ended up being kind of train wrecks is because there were people in it that didn't respect the container.
Like meaning they talked outside of school or meaning they didn't?
Yeah, or they, were doing stuff that didn't align with what we were really there to do. Like
Like
I
they were
was,
pitching or something?
yeah,
Oh,
right.
got it.
Either pitching each other
Okay.
or you're just their main purpose was to try to get business from
Yeah.
the other members versus trying to provide value.
Right.
I was in one that ended up becoming kind of like, a boys' locker
Oh,
room,
yeah. Got it.
like,
Okay.
okay, let's go do
Yeah.
debauchery and,
Yeah.
stuff together. It's like, no, guys, this is not what we're here for.
Well, because a couple things. So when I was in EO, we would do, I think it was 2 retreats kind of a year. So how do you feel that component, and those retreats were like, 3 days or something, or at however long, I mean, the group could decide, and we would fly off to these very cool places. And and then we would have our sessions, and we had definitely had fun, but we definitely had our sessions. So do you think that's a key component, that you go away for
Yeah.
those retreats?
It's interesting because yes, I do. Any in-person experience
Mhm.
you can have, especially when it's like over a few days where you break bread and you
Yeah.
also do exercises and get that sort of, all it's really doing is building the relationships deeper,
Mhm.
right? It's
Mhm.
getting that much closer, that much more trust,
Mhm.
so that whatever happens after that it just allows more richness to unfold.
Mhm.
So always in-person experiences are great to
Yeah.
make at least a part of a
Yeah.
mastermind. Some masterminds are only in-person experiences,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So since COVID, though, now virtual masterminds are much more prevalent, right?
Mhm.
Pre-COVID, no one was going to sit in a 2 to
No.
3 hour meeting
No.
online.
Yeah,
Right?
you're like, "Oh my god, no way." But now it's like, why would I drive across town to,
Right.
to be at it? Yeah.
Right. So now, most of my clients are creating virtual masterminds, and they can have people in it from all over the world.
Yeah.
Right.
So how does that okay, so how does it so what, like, services or whatever do you provide? I'm assuming it's like a revenue-based thing that you do for clients, but who's the ideal client to set up a mastermind? Is it somebody who is already a coach, or is it somebody who's just, "Hey, I'm stuck in my business and I just want this kind of kitchen cabinet of people that we're," or how does it, like, walk us through the next steps?
Yes.
Okay. All of the above.
All of the above, right? So that's the thing where there are different types of masterminds,
Mhm.
right? There are pure masterminds, which
Mhm.
is really what EO and
Mhm.
YPO and WPO creates.
Mhm.
And those are not monetized other than you pay
Mhm.
money to join the organization, and that's a benefit, right?
Right.
So in some cases, you can create a peer mastermind. It may not help you really monetize your
Mhm.
business because it's not perceived that
Right.
there's as much value. You can create what's called an access level mastermind,
Mhm.
where a top dog in my industry
Mhm.
and I assemble the best 8 other
Yeah.
top dogs in my
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
and people will pay $100,000 a year for
Yeah.
that type of mastermind. And what they're buying is access
Access.
to the top people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Most of my clients who are coaches, consultants,
Mhm.
authors, thought leaders
Mhm.
create masterminds that are monetized as a way to scale revenue in their business.
Got it.
So they're pulling people from their pool of people who already know, like, and trust them.
Mhm.
They're finding the cream of the crop who know,
Mhm.
love, and trust them, and creating smaller, intimate groups of
Right.
masterminds. Now, the other thing, just to, in the thought leader industry, 75% of what people call a mastermind is really either a networking group or group coaching.
Okay, great. So what's the difference?
Well, because there's no intentionality around building and deepening those relationships.
So that also where the dinner party component falls in is what there's not that intention. Because I remember when I was the group leader, I can't even remember what the term was. We had, like, everybody gets there and people are running a few minutes late, and you got to kind of go through, I call that decompression chamber, where you leave your other life behind, and then you're in that room and you're like, okay, maybe you get a snack and you sit down, and then it's like there is an agenda, right? Where somebody, and from what I recall, it's like, people can talk about their different things, but often somebody not pitches, but like goes through their in-depth issue that they want feedback on.
Yeah.
And so is that what you mean when you say the intentionality component? Like it's, you're going in to do this, this, and this, and come out that day with ideas around something specific.
So I think that's more around like an agenda and
Mhm.
what is how does your meetings flow?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
again, I don't believe there's a cookie cutter way to create these.
Yeah.
And there are people out there who teach people how to do
Right.
masterminds who literally teach a cookie cutter thing where it's like, okay, here's how you do a mastermind. Everybody gets a 10-minute hot seat
Yeah.
every meeting,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
just go around the room, and that's the entire mastermind.
So how do you do it? What's your secret sauce?
Well, for me, because I'm helping people typically monetize these,
Mhm.
right? It's like we have to figure out, what is your goal?
Mhm.
What is the value you're trying to create? What are you
Mhm.
trying to create for yourself? Is it income? Is it,
Mhm.
proximity? Is it
Mhm.
so we start from that, and then it's a question of, okay, what's your superpower?
Mhm.
Because we don't want to ignore that. If the
Mhm.
thought leader's superpower is doing live coaching
Mhm.
and mentoring in a hot seat type fashion,
Mhm.
great. Well, that's
Then
going to
that
be the
makes sense, but
centerpiece,
not
right?
necessarily. Got it.
Right. Like I had a client once who was heard me talk and she got all fired up to do this true Napoleon Hill small,
Mhm.
like 8 to 14, and she just wanted to
Mhm.
facilitate. Right.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you've been an MBA professor for 30 years. Like teaching is in your DNA.
Yeah.
So let's not ignore that
Right.
superpower. Let's build some of that component because you're going to default into that anyway,
Anyway, no matter what.
no matter
So
what.
that's really interesting. So because what I find is in academia, because I went to Georgetown, guest lecture at Georgetown every year, and it's very interesting to me, entrepreneurs who then start teaching, or like serial educators, right? And then they, switch to this kind of monetization component, And so how does that shift? Like, how does somebody decide to go from I'm going to teach to now I want to monetize a mastermind?
Yeah.
They have a spouse who starts spending more and they just are like, now I got to do something. What am I going to do?
Yeah, I think it's a combo of reasons or different reasons for different people. I think sometimes they just kind of get bored. Like
Mhm.
they're just, I've been doing this for
Yeah.
30 years and I just need
Yeah.
something stirring inside me to do something different.
Yeah.
And, or they, start to meet and hang out with some
Yeah.
entrepreneurs
Yeah.
and they're like, wait a minute, I could do something there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sort of, that glamorous entrepreneurial
Oh,
lifestyle
yes.
that
Once
people
again,
think we
right?
all
The
have.
the
Right.
fast car and yeah,
Yeah.
got it. And the butler and the whole thing. But then it's the backstory. So with the MBA professor, so they come to you and they're like, okay, listen, I wanted this new revenue stream. And so then what do you so let's say it is for a revenue stream, but they have this gift to teach. So then what? Like, do you say, how do you find the people to be in it? How do you find the people to pay, et cetera?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's her teaching whatever her superpower is key to the sort of components and the outcomes of what the mastermind's going to
Mm-hmm.
create.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's create a mastermind that takes advantage of your superpower
Mm-hmm.
in terms of delivering an outcome for the
Mm-hmm.
participants, but also activates the brain trust and creates that invisible intangible force at the same time.
So let's say, so what can you say what her superpower was, or should we just make something up to just workshop this? I don't want to disclose something we're not supposed to, because I know a big part of masterminds is confidentiality.
Yeah, I don't think I should talk about her superpower.
Okay,
But
so let's say it's a professor of okay, so I'm thinking at Georgetown. Okay, so let's say it's a professor of entrepreneurship, right? And they're in the same boat. They're like, okay, listen, I want to leave or take a sabbatical or something for a year, and I want to monetize this. Is it kind of, could you start with your semester course, you end with this, so the person is going to kind of structure it around what it would be, but
okay.
like in a real life scenario?
Yeah, it's a good example. So if I have a history of teaching entrepreneurship, right? Well, I'm not going to create a mastermind for entrepreneurs that have already been entrepreneurs for 15, 20 years because they have no patience to be taught
Right.
entrepreneurship.
And they're like, yeah,
right?
Thanks, next. Okay.
Yeah, right. So we would create a mastermind probably for newer entrepreneurs and so that it doesn't become just a course or a group coaching program. We would make either the teaching part of it a foundation. It could be a foundational component, like we are going to go through sort of
These
in a
modules
linear
kind of
step, these modules as we go, but it's not just going to be me on stage talking at you with Q&A.
Sure.
Right. Or it could be a prerequisite like you've got to go through this course or this program before you're accepted into the mastermind.
So that could be a paying thing, right? So they could say, I'm making this up, but okay, it's an entrepreneurial mastermind and there are, 6 modules, and you can buy the digital blah, 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 and you do your 6 modules, then you complete those, and then you're kind of evaluated to go into the next level.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is a key process. Is in a mastermind, you're not letting anyone in who can write the check, right? So you always want to have some kind of an application process, usually even some kind of an assessment prior to getting to an application point.
Yeah.
So you want to vet the people coming in.
Right.
And that's where you'd find out, like, because you want them at at least a similar level.
Right.
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 You don't want a 250,000 entrepreneur in the same mastermind as a 25 million.
Because they're going to just be like, thank you, next. Like, get impatient.
So
and then probably 250,000 would start getting frustrated, because
they both start getting frustrated, right? The 250 person would be like, I can't follow the discussion that's happening, or I don't have these problems yet.
Right.
And the 25 million person would be like, why are we asking these stupid questions?
Okay. So what is the tip? So when you work with somebody to set up a mastermind, like, what is the typical length you say? Like, is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be a year? Is it ongoing? Is it how many members? Yeah.
So I encourage people to try to start with a year, but when it depends on your credibility with the existing audience that you have, like maybe start at 6 months. But what I always try to do is encourage them to make it the program doesn't end in 6 or 12
Got
months.
It.
Right?
There's always a
renewal
next
time.
Yes, exactly. And then they can go month to month or whatever.
Yeah, or sign them up for the next year.
Got it.
Right. And so that's a key part of, one of my taglines is attract and keep clients for 3 years, not 3 months. Because if you set this program up correctly, then you can just keep them for years, right?
Yeah. And if everybody's getting value and everybody's saying, hey, listen, I just gave you 2 hours on Zoom or whatever it is, but oh my gosh, I got all this. Or if everybody's like, I pay X amount a month for this mastermind. But how I always teach my clients is, if it's, $100 and 1 hour, if it's $100 and you get $500 worth of ideas or whatever, I mean, and your hourly rate is, it's totally worth it. The ROI is very obvious.
Yeah.
So
let's go back to the professor of entrepreneurship, for example, right? So what would distinguish what we're doing there in a mastermind versus a course or a group coaching program, right? The idea is, if he builds that program over a year, at the end of the year, even if his content is over and done, at the end of the year, people will renew because of the relationships now they have with everybody else in the group. It's like, oh my God, I love these people. I'm getting closer and closer to them. I definitely want to renew for another year.
Absolutely.
So this is where this is a huge mindset shift for thought leaders, because they are always thinking like, a lot of thought leaders are like, okay, let's design a 12-month program. And they're like, oh my God, I don't even know if I have 12 months of content.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. Masterminds to me are easier to run. They can be much less linear. Like sometimes they're like in my client mastermind, it's really not linear at all. Like I give them a foundational course they could go through to get the basics, but the shit up as I go, which is really the fun, creative part of the process.
Well, it's a little bit like the podcast, right? Like, so we have the premise, every day is a train wreck. And the idea is it's behind the scenes, kind of like, what does Oz look like? Whether it's, behind the scenes of Disneyland or anything else. And it's kind of like, what's it like to be the guy who does the masterminds? Or what's it like to be, Tiger King in jail? So it runs the gamut, but the magic of so many times people get locked in with, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? Like, what's the topic? What's the structure? And I'm like, I can give you the structure. We can decide on what we're going to talk about. I'm going to guarantee you that's not what we're going to talking about, but if that makes you feel better, like doing it, great. So it is a little bit, it's like, once you jump in the pool, you're fine. Yeah. Like it's going to evolve how it is supposed to evolve. If you're the person to be the podcast host or host the mastermind group. So you probably give them confidence, and then the step-by-step, this is how you do it component and the structure.
Yeah.
And then so what if they say to you, I don't have a list, or then what do you say?
Well, again, the beauty of this concept is that you don't need a huge list with thousands of people on it, right? You could start with 100 people if you're looking for 8 to 14.
Right.
Right. So it all depends on your goals. I mean, I have people that are sort of even newer coaches or starting like masterminds that are 5,000-6,000 a year to join, and they're looking for 12 to 14 people. That's going to get their coaching business off the ground. And I have clients that are building, $10,000-$25,000 a year masterminds. All the way up to the really sky's the limit.
Oh yeah. Right? I mean, back in the day, when I started doing digital courses and stuff like that, which was about, God, it's almost been 18 years now. Those masterminds, then the high ticket ones were 100-something thousand. And that was a long time ago. Yeah. So yeah. And it's not like it was run by some like gazillion. You're just like, holy cow, like, what are you getting for that? But you're getting the access and the connections. And a lot of people in those masterminds, I've got to say, that I can think of in one particular $100,000 one, went on to do really amazing things. And and the other thing I've noticed about that is that they have 18 years ago, they were like the students or the attendees in the mastermind kind of thing, or that year-long one. And then what they've ended up doing is a few of them have really broken out and done amazingly well. But what I've continued to see is, maybe they're in a mastermind, a formal one or not still, but how much revenue and business they each give each other and continue to promote. And that is... And some of these people, like an endorsement from one, and granted, we talked about, know, like, and trust. They've known, liked, and trust the person for over 18 years, probably been in all kinds of foxholes. But one endorsement from this person to this person, it's game over. It's like, wow. And that's a huge, huge outcome, is the access and the connections. And just going back to what we talked about in the very beginning, that kind of magic that just comes with two or more minds coming together.
And that sort of access connection thing can be magical, especially for entrepreneur masterminds. But there's another component to this, which is just the human connection piece, that to me is really the magic sauce,
which we need more than ever, because people, the old adage is, oh, it's lonely at the top. Okay, well, first of all, it is, right? Because you just get to the point, like we're talking about the $25 million guy, who's he probably has very few people that he can talk to about his $25 million problem, which are usually going to be staff, and he's getting a lawsuit, he's getting this and that. And then the people that he could talk to, he's like, well, that's my competitor. I don't want to be talking to them. Right. Now, going back to the human connection, because when we were talking before we started taping, we had so many teenagers that went through COVID and they were isolated and everything turned to Zoom. Right. And then now they can't have that one-on-one connection. And to me, a mastermind, even if it is virtual most of the time, is still like a one-on-one connection, because you've still got to produce, right? So I still have to look you in the eye, even if it's in a Zoom call, and give direct feedback. I think your idea is missing this, if it's an entrepreneurial one, let's say. But there is something really magical about knowing there's somebody on the other end, right? That's like, it's almost like an AA sponsor or something. It's like, that's my guy. I can call those people when it gets tough. So talk a little bit about that.
So I'll finish my story.
Yeah.
But before I do that, this issue of loneliness and isolation is, I think it was 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General declared an epidemic of loneliness in our country. In 2024, the World Health Organization has created an entire commission to address the global crisis of social isolation and loneliness, right? So my story, I started joining all these masterminds, right? Well, that first business, I 10x'd it over this next several years, right? And I sold it in 2004.
So you were stuck.
Yeah.
Joined all these masterminds. And then from the time you joined the masterminds, how long did it take you to go from being stuck to the 10x?
It's about 6-7 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And sold the company, right?
Okay.
So,
exit number one.
Life was good. Life appeared good, right?
It always does. It always does.
So I traveled extensively. I bought 3 other businesses. I invested in a lot of different things, right? And then 2008, what's now referred to as the Great Recession, world financial crisis began. And over a 4-year period, one after the other domino just fell and fell and fell.
As they tend to do, everybody. I'll tell you from experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So by 2012, I am broke, bankrupt, divorced, alone, ashamed, living in my friend's basement.
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't even own a car. And unfortunately, my story does not include me bouncing right back and starting my next thing and getting back in the game. To me, it was a complete loss of identity because, I had this identity as this really successful serial entrepreneur. And there I am sitting in that basement.
And one thing I wanted to mention to you, because I've seen this so many times, whether it's with coaching clients or people that end up on the podcast, or there is always a really bad thing that happens to people at least once in their careers or their lives. And so I really want to underscore that I don't care what TikTok says, the instant millions, or it maybe that person, but it's like somebody said, oh, you're so successful at this or that. I'm like, yeah, it took me 30 years to be an overnight success. I mean, right. And that's kind of so I just want to underscore that if somebody's listening to this who is going through something, and first thing, maybe you're not going through something, but your friend is, or your friend is starting a business, please forward this episode to them, because when you're in that spot, it is really lonely. And it is, I mean, if you're even kind of on the edge, you want to jump off the bridge, right? And sometimes it takes a lot. And I call it like invisible suffering too. Like you see the face or the face app makes it all look fine, but inside the person is really, I mean, there's so much shame because you are convinced you're the only one, right? That is ever, well, okay, they might have had a tough time, but they didn't go from this to living in the friend's basement. And so these are the real stories.
No, I get that all the time. Like I'll share this and people will say, but a lot of people lost everything in the financial crisis. I'm like, that doesn't make me feel any better, right? Because I didn't personally know anyone who lost everything. Everyone that I knew, my whole world, I'm sitting there. And so here's the key thing is that I hid in the basement. Right. So I lived in there. I lived literally in the basement for 5 months, but figuratively more like 5 years. Yeah. I quit almost everything I was involved in. I quit most of the masterminds I was in. I quit networking groups like EO. I quit friendships.
Now I'm going to ask you something key about this. In hindsight, was that the right thing to do?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Because when I've gone through difficult stuff, the first thing I want to do is like retreat, because first of all, you feel like the world is looking at you like they know I'm in the basement. They know I lost everything. Okay, well, they don't. They're very focused on whatever it is they're doing. And then we want to isolate ourselves thinking like, okay, but in reality, you've got to have that human connection. So what got you out of the basement after 5 months?
So
did you get sick of no view or what? The friend boot you?
Yeah. So the one thing that I stayed in, was that first mastermind that I joined, right? That was the only thing I stayed in during that time. And I honestly don't think I'd be sitting here today.
Yeah. That was like the lifeline, right? Because they probably were like, okay, you got to get out of bed. Okay.
Yeah.
You can do this.
They supported me financially, spiritually, emotionally, because, especially at that point, these were all people like, brothers and sisters, right? So these are people who have your back. Yeah. And they literally got me through that time. Now, I still struggled. I was still dealing with alcohol issues and depression issues.
Because it all follows. I mean, that's the thing that people don't understand is high achievers are very often high risk takers. So when you're a high risk taker, spend a lot of time having a lot of chips on the table. And then those chips can get off the table. And if you can bounce back, great. But if that valley gets a little deep, what do? You're like, you don't want to jump off a bridge. So then you start drinking or you start taking drugs or you start some other extreme behavior. Yeah. And then what happens? Then you get depressed and then you're like, oh my gosh, but all these dominoes start to fall. And then you get just more of a mess to clean up. And so how did you take those human connections and then pull yourself out?
Yeah.
Or you're like, are you having he's not, I don't think he's drinking now, but I'm just kidding. He might be. I should be.
So for me, there's two things that were happening. One is that there's this imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, that success I had to sell that first company, that was a fluke, right? Because then I created all these failures afterwards, right? So the other thing beyond the imposter syndrome for me was this fear of, if I build it all back up again, I'm just going to lose it again, right? And this was childhood stuff from my father dying when I was 10 years old. It's kind of like, why get close to people who are just going to get ripped out of your life? Right. So I had these dual things, this imposter syndrome thing, like that was just a fluke. So over those next, 5 or 10 years after my crash, I kept trying to start things and they didn't take off. And there were sort of these failures along the way, and it just reinforced, like, oh my God,
here we go again.
That was a fluke. And so it really took me a long time. And
how did you fix it? Because I call it the tape, right? Where the tape starts running, and I have to be very careful because once the tape starts running, that tape keeps running, right? And and that's just reinforcing where you don't want to go. Yeah. So how did you do that pattern interrupt?
So fortunately, along the way, I found a really good personal development coach that is really good at interrupting that tape and sort of reprogramming. So that helped a lot. And, you just keep trying. I mean, I kept getting involved I was involved with some startups that had huge potential, right? That I thought, man, this is my way back into the game, right? And, in both cases, we ran out of funding, right? And after we had spent 18 months, a couple of years building something, and that's
soul sucking. I mean, that is when you're just like, you're barely at the waterline to start mentally, right? With all of it. And then you're like, okay, I'm there. And then boom, the bottom falls out.
Yeah. So there kept having these things happen. And then, at some point, I was just like, okay, I'm at a point in life that I don't need to build another 800-pound gorilla. Right. I am looking to build a lifestyle business and have fun and do something I'm passionate about. Right. Well, what am I most passionate about? Well, Masterminds helped 10x my first business and save my life at the most difficult time I've had.
So you went back to what you knew.
Yeah. That's my superpower. Yeah. Is facilitating masterminds. My superpower is helping people, especially with the sales and marketing part of positioning a mastermind for monetization. And I just love working with these badass entrepreneurs and thought leaders.
Because that's the other thing too that's interesting is what I always find is, even if I'm the one organizing something, whatever, like I still will pick up so much good stuff just by being in the proximity of people who are really smart and on the same page and want to do very cool things. So how does it work if somebody wants to work with you? So first of all, where do they find you? Are you on Instagram, LinkedIn? What's the best?
Yeah, I'm easy to find on any social platform because of my unique name.
Yes, you have a very unique name.
And my company is sixfiguremasterminds.com. And you can find me Six Figure Masterminds on socials or Jay Fairbrother.
So it's kind of like the Blue Jay. And then the Fairbrother. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So that's how, perfect. So they can find you that way. And then what happens? They just reach out and say, hey, listen, I heard you on the podcast, or somebody told me about you.
I mean, I have programs, right? I have a course. I have a year-long client program that walks people through, building this thing and selling it and that kind of thing. And then, for higher level entrepreneurs, I'll do more of sort of a custom thing for them, because they don't need all the foundational pieces. Yeah, so again, it's not a cookie cutter approach. Yeah, I try to give people what they need and make sure they get the value.
So then we're on this cruise here, the San Juan Social Club, which is the first time I had never heard of these investor cruises where you have your concept. So I'm pitching my sheep product. We're doing this raise for that. Why did you come on the cruise? Like, what were you looking for?
So, in addition to the sort of investors and funders that are on this
Yeah.
cruise, there are also a lot of coaches and speakers on the cruise.
So that's right.
And those are,
Those are your people.
Those are my people. Although what's interesting is a number of the investor funder people
Right.
have been, approached me.
Right.
They're like, hey, I've always wanted to build a mastermind.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do it.
Right. I love it. So yeah. So again, I call it going where the fish are swimming. It's like, this is your thing. And you can have fun and you meet other cool people and stumble upon them and do random podcasts that people just say, hey, can I steal you for an hour instead of going out to the beach? Okay. Well, this has been amazing. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. And most importantly, I hope what people get out of this is that there is hope on the other end for whatever if you're in a trough right now, everything, what goes down also comes up. So reach out to Jay if that makes sense to you, if it's something you want to get into. I'm sure you could also refer people to actually, that'd be a great thing. So even if somebody doesn't want to start their own mastermind, they could probably reach out to you and you could probably say, hey, join, one of your clients' masterminds that focuses on some particular area.
Yeah, exactly. I know a ton of people running masterminds.
Yeah.
I also know if, you're trying to build a business as a thought leader, consultant, coach, speaker, I have a ton of connections and resources in that area.
That's awesome. Okay. So hopefully, most importantly, pass this podcast on to at least one friend who might need a little pick me up. And I want to thank Jay so much for being on the podcast and most importantly, taking some beach time away and doing something educational and really giving back. And I think that's it. You know where to find me on Instagram at Profit Goddess, and most importantly on our YouTube channel, same thing, the Profit Goddess. But if you haven't already, please subscribe, please like, comment. We'd love it. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much. Have a great one, you guys. Bye-bye.